Well, hello everyone, and welcome to um, the sixth video in this Vinland Saga read through, where I'm reading through Vinland Saga for the first time, and I'm joined by
Me once again. I did check. I was like, what? This is six? I thought it was seven. I get confused, but this book is so small that I kind of merge it in my mind with seven. Like,
yeah,
I just, um, yeah, no, it's a good book though.
yeah. Oh well, we'll see. Um,
Oh yeah, true. Well, I think it's a good book, of course. Of
yeah.
course, I think it's a good.
So all of Vinland
Hey,
Saga is
what do you
good,
think of
right?
Vinland Saga? Yeah, just about. It's okay.
Okay, well, we're going to be covering English Book 6, which is Japanese volumes 11 and 12, which is chapters 72 to 86. So we're getting there. It's pretty far into it now. And the events that
We've
are
still
covered.
got more than 100 chapters left.
Really? Wait, what chapters are we up to at the moment, actually? Like,
We're up to 190, but the chapters get a lot
Jeez.
shorter in page count. So, like, that's why, like, despite being halfway through the number of books by the end of this, kind of, like, they just get, get shorter. That's okay,
Yeah.
though.
All right. Well, in this book, we get the death of King Harold at the hands of Canute's poison. We get the Kettle family visiting Canute's court and being tricked into killing Canute's messengers. And we get the complete story of Arnhide's husband, Gardar, the runaway slave. So we get his entire introduction and death at the end. So, in terms of overall thoughts, I thought this was it was very engaging. Like a lot more stuff happens in this compared to last book, like plot wise. So it's very like a lot of stuff to read, and I read through it. This is easily like the quickest I've read them so far. I think I say that every time, but this one I read like very quickly. Like maybe I didn't read them like every single day, but I think I only spent 2 days reading it, but there was like a gap between those days. But it was very quick. I enjoyed it. Especially the Canute stuff and the Thorfinn stuff I liked a lot. But the stuff with Garda definitely wasn't like very interesting. Like it took up a lot of the book, but it was definitely the least interesting part for me, I think. Like the stuff surrounding Garda and like how it affects Thorfinn and everything, I thought that was really interesting. But him himself and him with Arnheid and everything, I didn't find that too interesting. But yeah, that's overall thoughts. Now,
all right,
yeah.
nice.
Now, as usual, I got 4 standout arts. And the first one is one of Canute, where he's got a very black cloak. And I just like it just because the black of the cloak is just pure black. It just looks like a void. Like, I don't really know why it stood out to me so much. It's just a striking, like, color, I guess, for the cloak. But yep, he's looking ominous there. Yep.
So the volume 12 cover, is it volume 12? Yeah, so 11 is this. So this is one of the English ones that you miss. This one here, which is if it loads, is Canute's.
Oh yes, I did see that. You know what? When I saw that initially, I thought that was Thorfinn. I was like, wow, Thorfinn's going to get a big redesign in this. And no, it's Canute.
Oh, wow. It's Canute. Oh, I guess that does make sense. Yeah. Because you weren't expecting Canute.
No,
and, you haven't seen him like this yet. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's Canute's kind of hot.
I mean, yeah, you know what? I love his design.
He is hot. He is hot.
Yeah, definitely. He's a beautiful man. I really like his new design. Which we did see a little bit last time, but here it's just like you get close-ups and just a lot of him, and it's great. Yeah. But along another Canute standout panel was the one in the first chapter with Canute, where it's just an empty room and he's sitting in it and it's dark, and then in the corner you see a small like little head of Sven, and I don't know, it's so creepy and cool, and it's a great visual.
For sure.
Yep. The third one is when Olmar is like tricked into killing this guy, and then Thorgil comes in and takes out the rest of them. And it's just Olmar sitting down, and in the background you got Thorgil coming in and killing this guy like a monster. And
that's
it's like,
such a good panel.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it ends the chapter that it's on as well. It's a great kind of visual. Now, the last one is very different. And it's interesting. There's something I like about this. This is the one of Arnheid walking at the night, like during the quote unquote storm.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so
walking
good.
to go to what was his name again? Garda.
Garda.
Um,
Yeah.
Now it's interesting because the art is good, but this art is like consistently good throughout the whole like storm thing. So I think why I like this one is like a standout piece of art. It's just her pose, like her crying and then like leaning over. I don't know. I like it a lot. There's just something, I don't know, a subtle detail. that I
It's
just
very
like.
sympathetic. Yeah, there's something about like
She's
it's
walking
like
and like half like leaning over, and I don't know.
I think for me it just fills me with dread because she goes on
Sure.
this speech all beforehand about you need to wait out the storm, and then you see her go into the storm herself, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, honey, don't.
Yep.
And like, yeah, it's. I mean, for sure.
Beautiful. The storm.
It's gonna be. Yeah, it's gonna be hard talking about our need in this book without the next book.
Yeah.
So, like, as you can imagine, there's stuff that goes on with her.
Yep.
So, so okay. The first question I want to ask you is: the volume cover of this is Garda holding her need, but you don't know that at the time, right? So
No, not at all.
So like, what do you think was going to happen? Because I remember when I saw this volume 12 cover, it just kind of filled me with dread. I was just like, what's going to happen? Who's this fella? I presumed it was Arnheid, but it's also like probably like she looks like she's naked. I think.
Yep. Well, okay.
It's like a little provocative, I guess. Oh no, she's got a dress on, I think. But yeah, it's like anyway, it's like one of the most provocative like volume covers. I feel like, I don't know.
I thought it was Einar initially in the back with the orange hair, because I don't know what color his hair is. Like, I don't know if it's meant to be orange or whatever.
He is also redhead, yeah. So.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense then. But it was like, oh, he loves Arnheid, and maybe he's gonna do something bad, and they're both slaves. That's why there's chains and everything. But no, it wasn't him in the end. But that's what I thought when I was reading it. And I did think, oh, some bad stuff's gonna happen here. But that is what I thought. I guess going into even when I finished the last book, I was like, this next book, some terrible stuff's gonna happen, and nothing too bad happens. I think it'll be next book where the really bad stuff happens. But we'll see. But you want to just go into all the events now? Or you got anything else?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do that.
Well, to start off, we get a chapter. I guess just to start off, I've got some notes on catching up with Canute and him like arriving when King Harold has died due to his own poison and all that stuff. So, firstly, we talked about his new design. I think it looks cool. I thought something that was really interesting is that he has a sister. I didn't know that. Like, I don't know if I'm meant to remember that or something, but I thought it was really interesting that he has a sister. Like, she just comes out of nowhere.
Remember that?
Really?
Oh, actually, no. She's introduced here. Yeah, sorry. I thought she was introduced last book, but no, she's introduced here.
Yep. I don't know. It's interesting. As soon as I saw her, it reminded me of either Helga or Hordaland, because they looked so similar. Is like the striking thing. I was like, oh, what are they doing here? What's going on? Then it was his sister, and I'm like, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, this is my one critique about Vinland Saga art is that lots of the female characters look very similar.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah, like you can mistake her. I think Estrid here is okay because it looks like to me like young Canute. So that's
I can definitely see their relation.
It makes sense, but like. Sometimes, I think particularly when it comes to facial structure, it's just like a typical, I guess, like some people are just not willing to draw their women ugly as much, or like I don't know, like if they're young, they have to be pretty.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like you look at it, I mean, I guess it's maybe like side characters more like I understand if it's your main characters like Thorfinn and Canute, like they kind of look similar, to be fair, like their facial structures. Like that's kind of, but if you look at someone like Fox or even Wolf, or Badger, like do you look at all those side male characters, even someone like Snake, like his facial composition is just different.
Yeah.
And it becomes more, particularly when he's introduced. I mean, the art style becomes more refined later on, but it's just one of those things that's a bit of a shame when you come to main female characters. Yukimura is really good at changing their hairstyle, but in terms of actual facial composition. You've got either cute women, cute young women, or like I guess like more stronger woman kind of face.
Yep. Yeah.
And then you got elderly woman kind of thing. I mean, the
Yeah.
elderly woman actually, they've got a rich, like the most uniquely designed female character is probably Kettle's wife here. I think you've been introduced.
Yeah, I
to
remember.
her, right?
Yeah.
So like, but it's like, I don't know. To me, I love it when you got like diverse, cool character. And anyway, sorry, that I went on an old man rant. I've already complained about that so many times before.
I think I agree with that. It is interesting. Like when I think to the women, the ones that stand out, I guess, are like obviously Anne from that one chapter, which was great. And then we've got like
even here, Esra does kind of look like Anne.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Way.
Like they look similar,
like,
just their hair or something. Like something is different.
Yeah.
Where I'm like,
I mean, to be fair, Yukimura does have more to work with men because he can give them facial hair as well.
Yeah.
You know, like if you take someone like
that is true. Yeah.
Like Willowbold, like he looks more generic when he shaved off all his hair. You know,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
we haven't seen him in ages. I forgot about him at this point, man.
Yeah. So I mean. I mean, it's one of those things. The more female characters are introduced later, as well. So we'll get a more varied appearance. Anyway, it's just one of those small things.
Yep.
But yeah.
Hey, his art is still good. Love the art. Good stuff.
Yeah, his art's still good, and his female character designs are still actually really good. Particularly regarding with clothing, I love the diversity there.
Yeah.
Like it's like, it's quite cool.
All right, good stuff. So, so with all this Canute stuff going on here. The first point to make, I guess, is that he is just straight up, in my opinion, just becoming a tyrant. Like it's very clear here that he's killed his own brother who loved him. He seems to not listen to Gunnar, I think, or I think that's what his name was. Ragnar's brother. Yeah.
Yep. Gunnar.
So essentially, he just seems to have the power and want to get more power, and he's just for the greater good and all that. Which I'll talk about a bit more later, I guess. But so essentially he's bad and he's being portrayed as bad, I think, and he's just more so than what I thought last book. But I guess go ahead.
You're also introduced to Wolf in this chapter as well.
Yeah, so Wolf is, I mean, I don't have anything particular on him, but I thought his name was interesting and that it's an animal, just like snake and all that. Like, I wonder if they're related somehow.
No, his name's like, it's W-U.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's not quite related. I wouldn't say it's related, but
okay.
And you can make an interesting headcanon theory about that. Like there's like theories that he's related to Pater somehow because they've got similar eyes.
Oh yeah, they that's a good point. They do look very similar.
So Wolf I think is at least with Canute commanding going forward someone to pay attention to. Because he is sparring with Canute in this. He
is, which I wasn't expecting.
At some point. Yeah.
Like, I thought maybe he is the honorable guard or whatever that's just doing Canute's bidding, but it seems like he is in on Canute and he understands what Canute is doing and everything, and interesting.
Yeah. And Wolf has the feelings for Estrid as well.
Yes, that's true.
Cheeky boy.
Yeah.
Going for that cheap shot.
So everyone's got relationships on all sides, you know, something terrible's going to happen.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, someone's going to be sad. But so the other big thing we get in this opening kind of section with Canute is that Canute is seeing the head of Sven, which is such a great visual. Like really cool idea. Like I like it so much. I wasn't expecting to ever see Sven again. Maybe in like a flashback or something, but definitely not in this. And I love it.
Yeah, we've got Sven's local stan here.
Yep.
Elite Ari. It reminds me, like, it always reminded me of Macbeth. I think it was.
Ooh,
it's some Shakespearean thing where, like, I think it's Macbeth.
It's with Duncan,
where he starts seeing the head. Yeah, I think so. He starts seeing the head. I mean, he starts, but he's like, "Is this the knife I see before me? Come, let me clutch thee." Like that is drilled into my head from watching like the modern day version play or whatever.
Yeah, I remember one with a kitchen or something. Have you seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's got like that X-Men guy or whatever. I don't know.
Oh no, that one's not with the kitchen. I don't think. I think yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
He's like a chef, isn't he?
But not Patrick Ewing. What's the? Oh, I'm so stupid. What was it?
I got no idea.
Professor X.
Yeah, but the young one, the young Professor X, right?
Oh, like
That's what I'm
James
thinking of.
McCass.
Yeah, no, James something. James. I gotta look it up.
He's a Scottish lad. Okay, I'm thinking of the older guy.
Oh, that's that. What are the odds?
James
James McAvoy. There we go.
McAvoy. That's it.
That's so funny that they
lad.
both played Macbeth.
I think so. What was the guy called? Patrick something.
Patrick Stewart.
Professor Patrick Stewart. Okay, Patrick Stewart Macbeth. Yeah, no, he's in a 2010 film.
Wow.
You can watch it now on Prime. Wow.
What a world we live in.
Okay, I'm gonna try and find the clip where it's like, you can cut this out, but show the clip of, is this the dag? Is this a dag?
Is this a dagger which I see before me?
This one was played in my English class all the time.
All right. So Macbeth, yes, the skull of Sven. I mean the head of Sven, similar to the skull of Duncan or something, or the ghost of Duncan or something. Cool stuff.
Like
cool reference. Okay.
Yeah, probably not even a reference. We're just
looking
at
sorry.
it through a Western lens, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eurocentrically lens.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
A part of. Australia's part of Eurovision. You're part of Europe, right? So.
Oh God, I don't know.
Eurocentric.
We're under the
lens.
Commonwealth, where the Queen is our queen.
Yes, as you should be. Subjugated people.
Yes, love it. Slaves, pretty much.
Anyway,
okay, so
slaves are good.
With the head of Sven, I think it's interesting that firstly, it's interesting in that it's kind of the embodiment of the curse of the crown, because like that Sven was talking about before he died, about how the crown is gonna it'll seek more power and then want to grow, or it'll want to keep power and then seek more power. And then in this book, the head of Sven is like talking about how he's a curse and everything, and like I'm sure that's kind of what he's getting at for Canute.
Mm-hmm.
But the more interesting thing that I think is that the fact that Canute is seeing this head, who he knows is bad and evil and whatever. He that kind of implies that Canute knows that what he's doing is wrong. Like that he know, like this voice that's speaking to him, it's Sven telling him, "Oh, you killed your own brother who loved you and probably would have supported you." And because this is all going on in Canute's mind, like in my opinion, it kind of shows that he understands what he's doing is wrong. Like he's not completely lost. Like he's not crazy like he's getting toward being crazy, but he is still hearing this reasoning in his own mind. So he's not completely lost. That's the important thing I wanted to say at this point. Yeah. What do you think about good old Sven head? Is it a curse?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't have much to say about it because we are in the middle of like stuff. Like I do need to be careful with what I say in general. Right?
We can talk about it in another book.
But I do think, yeah, no, it's a really cool callback. I like how it's like, both Canute and Thorfinn are thinking about their fathers in different ways. Coming back to them, it's like shown differently. And yeah, I mean, it is the curse of the crown, and it's a very interesting theme, and it is talking about like Canute is being corrupted. Like it's like. He makes his bold statements like, oh, like back in book 4, like, oh, I won't be corrupted like it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like, I don't know, setting yourself up to failure. I think I remember you being a bit more confident that he was not going to turn bad, but like at this point we're like, oh,
he's
okay,
bad.
Don't know what's going to happen with him. Yeah, well, he is doing bad things, right? So
yeah, I mean, he is all about the greater good, right?
Yeah, the greater good.
Which is a big thing in this book.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like, because I know I brought it up a little bit last book, but in this book, it's like made very explicit where even, I think the Sven's head even says that, oh, you're doing this, like you're, like what you're doing is noble, but it's still, like it's still bad, basically. I don't know. It's kind of like Canute also understands that the greater good is not always good, in a way. I don't know. It's just interesting stuff. I want to see how it concludes, like next book with their confrontation.
I think also with Sven's head, I kind of think of it as like, I didn't always think about it as an internal battle, even though that probably makes the most sense of thinking about it. It's kind of like Sven being like an antagonist to Knut's thoughts in a way, and like just mocking him.
Yeah.
So like, and just always putting the seed of doubt, like, oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. Look at what you're doing, mate. Is this really for the greater good? You know, are you gonna buckle out? Oh no, you're just falling into the same trap that I did. You're just the same as your father, kind of thing. And yeah, it's kind of like this almost this mocking tone, like. So anyway, it's just an interesting dynamic here.
Yep,
So,
love it.
And I just love where when it turns up. The reveal of it when he's like, "Oh, I used to play this with kids," and then like the ball bounces on the floor, and then turns out to be Sven's head, and then he goes to Harold, and Harold's head turns into Sven, and all this stuff. It's just very cool. And I'm not sure, is it this book? Does it have that Canute imagery? Oh no, there's like some very Griffith panel in one of maybe it's next book. You'll see.
No, I don't recall.
I feel like you would have picked it out, but yeah, there's more head stuff going on later on. There's a big Berserk reference later on.
The thing,
the most explicit Berserk reference in the whole entire manga. So.
I think I had a very small Berserk reference, which is, you know, in that standout art I talked about Knute's black cloak.
Yeah,
it reminded me of Ganishka. I think that's what his name was in Berserk.
Oh,
how he has like this is one famous panel of him with like that black, like he's just basically just wearing all black except for his head. Kind of reminded me of that a bit, but subtle Berserk reference, not like a big one.
Yeah. Ganeshka. Yes, I remember this guy.
Yep.
Dude, Berserk art.
Berserk art is so good. If you guys haven't seen Berserk, read Berserk. It's even just for the art, it's so good. All right. Yeah, so that's all for that little opening section that was, I think, just one chapter. So moving on, the next stuff we get, I think I've just merged this a bit together, but talking about when Kettle visits Canute, essentially. So we can just keep talking about Canute now.
Yeah, just merge it. Yeah, actually, I was thinking to myself, there's two parts to this, so let's just focus on the two parts.
Yeah, so in this section, we've got Kettle and Olma going to visit... or going to pay tribute to King Harold and then finding out he's dead, and then they have an audience with Canute. And it all goes sour when Canute essentially tries to frame Olma so that he can get Kettle's farm for himself. So a lot of crazy stuff. And this was the most engaging part of this book. Like, I just blasted through this. I don't know why. I just found it really cool. But the first thing I've got is that I was so glad to see Leif again. Like, I was not expecting to see him anytime soon, and when he showed up, I was like, oh, I'm so happy. My heart skipped a beat, you know. Like, yeah, this legend. He's still on the hunt, but he's not really. And man, like seeing Leif and Kettle, like these two dads, like talking to each other. I was like, man, this is good stuff. Like two people I really like, and they're just good people in general, and they're talking to each other. I'm like, oh, this is great.
You're also introduced to Leif's son, Thorfinn.
Yeah. So in regards to him, his name is they call him Bug Eyes, and that's a name I've heard of before. Like I don't know, like I don't know what, like I haven't heard it in any context or anything, but I definitely know that name. Because I'm like, that's what a memorable name. But yeah, anyway, he is interesting. So if I'm interpreting it right, so Leif was going to essentially his life's mission has just been to go and look at slaves and try and find Thorfinn, and then he found someone who looked very similar to Thorfinn in this guy who calls himself Thorfinn, or Bug Eyes is what other people call him.
Yeah.
And then in my headcanon, he bought him because maybe he just felt bad for him or something, and now he's just adopted him as a son because he's just a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so I think he was. I'm not sure if his original name is Thorfinn or he got the name Thorfinn from Leif. Yeah. But eventually, because he wasn't Thorfinn, they just called him Bug Eyes instead because he's got wide eyes is another translation. But basically, he's just got big eyes. That's.
Yep.
So, but people like he's got one of those names where like initially fan translators like called him something very differently, and so his name causes a lot of confusion. Yeah. So big eyes, wide eyes, Bug Eyes.
I like Bug Eyes.
Everybody calls him Bug Eyes because his eyes are like bugs. They're just wide open. I guess I don't know.
So I think the only other main thing going on here is that like when Olma fights or kills or even unintentionally kills the one of Canute's messengers,
the man who couldn't cut a pig. Yes.
Yeah, it was. I like how the chapter was called Olma's finest moment. or something like that. And I was like, oh, is he actually going to do something good? And then no, he definitely doesn't.
Yeah. And yeah, I like that title page. It's him like doing up his hair and
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, it's so good. I love that.
Yeah, good stuff. I thought he was, I just thought something good was going to happen. He definitely didn't. But from that confrontation, I just loved having Thorgil on our side. Like, it's such a, like, I was certain that last book, Thorgil is going to be someone, like an antagonist, basically, who is going to do something terrible and kill Kettle or something, but he's on our side now, and it's just so great having him. Where I'm like, I can root for him, and he's a beast when it comes to battle, and, like, it's just, I don't know, I like it a lot. And like he's particularly all of his fights we get in this little section, they're so fluid is the word like that I've written down, in that it's like he's just moving around the battlefield and taking out people, and it's so smooth, and I just like how his fights are drawn a lot. Like Thorgil is great. I like him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those moments where you're like, he is smart. Like
yeah.
he does, like he. I mean, Thorgil's personality, like he is loyal to the farm and to his family to some respect, but it's also his Viking mentality that like causes Olmar to go for the kill to begin with, and like it's what Canute plays towards as well. So like,
yeah,
you know, so like, I mean, but yeah, of course, like with most things, he has more nuance to him. Like he figures out pretty quick that, like, you know,
something is going amiss. Like is the guy's eyes missing or something?
Yeah, like he figured out that Canute was doing all this stuff. Yeah, then he like sticks the thing in his eye. Yeah, it's very, very cool. Which it's one of those weird things, like, in Vinland Saga, you're like, how can you draw like violence so cool yet be like not for it?
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, very interesting thing.
I'd like to see him and Thorkel interact. Like that'd be so cool. Like these two similar people, but always very different still. I think that would be really interesting. Yeah, that's my only other note for Thorgil. But
nice.
I guess honestly, the only other thing I've got for this section with like the Kettle family visiting is that it just didn't go at all how I was expecting. Like initially, you know, like earlier in the book where you hear that Kettle is going to go and visit the capital, I was like, oh, not the capital, but Canute's court. I was like, oh, he's going to die. Like this is it. He's not coming back. It's all over. Something terrible will go on there, and but this didn't go at all how I was expecting. Like they all survived, they came back. It was a good little not subversion, but like I liked how it turned out. But nice. The potential of like what actually did happen, like in that now that Canute is gonna go and like seize the farm with like 100 men or something, so something crazy, like all the strongest men basically. I'm like, man.
With Jorm's Vikings.
It's insane. Like I've got like we'll talk about it in the prediction sections at the end, but like the potential for this is crazy because you've got like Thorfinn who's like against fighting now. So what's he gonna do in this situation? You've got Einar who hates the Norsemen and everything. You've got Sverkel who's like on the verge of dying. You've got Snake and his however many men are still remaining after the whole Gardar thing. Like what's gonna happen with them? You've got Kettle who like used to be a great warrior but now he's a coward. Like what's he gonna do? Like, is Thorkel going to get involved? Like, is that how, like, will Thorgil and Thorkel meet through this somehow? And, like, I don't know, it's a great potential for the next book. If the fight happens at all, which we'll talk about later, I guess. But, man.
Yeah. I mean, next book is a doozy. Let's put it that way. I'm a big fan.
I got to the end of this and I was like, oh, I want to keep reading. But anyway, so that's the section with the Kettle family visit to Canute. Now, the rest of this video is basically us just talking about Gardar the runaway slave. So I've got a summary of what happens in case people don't remember. But so Gardar, who's Arnide's husband, Gardar runs away early in the book, and then he kills Snake's men and tries to retrieve Arnheid, but then is captured by Snake. And then Arnheid goes and frees him, but during the process of being freed, Gardar suffers a big injury. And then Arnheid hides him away. And then Thorfinn and Einar help Arnheid to kind of smuggle him out. But then during that like process of smuggling him out, Thorfinn is forced to fight Snake. And during that fight, Snake kills Gardar, or at least gives him like a killing blow. But it turns out Gardar isn't dead, and then he chokes out Snake, and then he runs away with Arnheid, and then eventually dies. So that's everything that happens. And this is definitely the bulk of the book. Like it spans the entire book, and even the cover page we were talking about before. Like it's obviously something very important. But there's a lot to talk about. So the way I've split this section is that I've got miscellaneous thoughts, which is small things. Then I've talked about Einar, and then Thorfinn, and then Arnheid a little bit. So
Cool.
yeah,
Sounds great. So I'm just posting some pictures. I didn't even ever clock this before, but until I was reading this vertically just now. So here you've got Garda swinging down to try and kill. His name wasn't Lizard. That's his name. The guy that died.
Mm-hmm.
And then it is their match cut with Einar chopping the wood here in the next scene. I didn't actually ever clock that. That's going to be so much more obvious when it's animated, but like that's a cool cut right there.
Yeah.
And then you got like what I really love about Vinland Saga. Like actually, I've never really inspected that bottom scene before, but you can see Einar, you can see Arnie doing the washing there, Einar's chopping the wood, and then Thorfinn's listening in the window of Sverkel's hut, because I think they're talking, like that's when he's listening to them read the Bible. That's cool.
Yeah, I just noticed. I'm looking at it as well. That is cool.
Dude, I just noticed this now.
Yeah,
oh
they're
my
so
word.
small. It's great.
Yeah, so small. Vinland Saga.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? His art is good after all, isn't it?
This thing's pretty good. This thing's pretty good. I'm not sure if you read. I think it's at the end of this book, but if you read the Ask Yukimura sections, he talks about a bit of the artistic process, but he doesn't do the backgrounds and all that stuff. So
I thought it was interesting. He talks about how the background art takes up like a lot of like 4/5 or something of the time. It's just background art, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's so detailed.
Yeah, it's hyper detailed background art. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, gotta respect it, man.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so you were on something, and I just interrupted it completely.
No. So I was just going to begin talking about these are I'll go through this quick. Just a bunch of miscellaneous thoughts about this section. So the first thing is that we start this book, like this whole chapter, this like story with Gardar in this book, with a really with him escaping from slavery, and there's just a really harsh lighting, and it just looks really cool. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The next thing is that I'm just skipping around here, but it's just a bunch of miscellaneous thoughts. I was surprised that when Snake and Gardar fought for the first time, just how quickly Snake beat him. It was cool. I was expecting. Oh yeah, I guess he's very injured. Like he like Snake talks about how he has all these injuries and you couldn't beat him to his like men. But yeah, I just thought I thought it would be like that would be the big final battle or something, but it wasn't. It was just a quick victory.
I see. So like Garda's the big boss. That makes sense. Like, but Snake's like, oh boys, I'm gonna have to actually try on this one, and then he just whacks him with the blunt edge of his blade.
Takes him out. It was great.
And Snake's got a cool sword. He's got a cool sword. His unique sword there. So
yep, Snake good. So another miscellaneous thing is that Snake says this line to Arnheid, which is, "Forget about him, Arnheid. That wasn't your husband, just a mad runaway slave." So I don't have anything particular, at least in this book, about this, but there was a few things like this throughout the book where there's a lot of emphasis placed on pre-slave and post-slave life. Like somehow that slavery is like a permanent thing that will change you forever, like transform you. Just like how it has to Thorfinn in a way. I don't have anything really to talk about just beyond that point itself. But I thought it was an interesting kind of thing going on.
I actually wouldn't interpret the Snake's comment like that specifically. I think Snake is actually quite compassionate, and he's like, God is clearly not the man that Arnie knew. He's clearly rabid. In a way. So I think that's what you're referring to. Like he's not in the right state of mind. But I guess you like talking about. So like I don't think Snake thinks like that. They're like you're slaves, so you're different necessarily. Particularly when he hangs out with Sverkel, who doesn't care if you're a slave.
All right, last miscellaneous point. The idea of the storm and it being something that like consumes people and is a bad thing. It kind of reminded me of the forest in Attack on Titan. So just a small little note where it's like, oh, we want to keep the children out of it. We don't want them to become warriors like Anna became. Jesus Christ, what was his name again? Garda. Like Garda became.
Garda, yeah.
Small things. But now, what happens with Einar during this arc? We should talk about that. So, not too much, but he seems very, because obviously he loves Arnheid. In my opinion, I think it feels very obvious. But he wants her to be happy. So he is very, yeah, pretty much. He wants to fight for Arnheid's happiness, basically. And Thorfinn disagrees with this. Like he just doesn't want anyone to fight in general, or anyone to harm other people in general. But so essentially, what I've got is that Einar is choosing love or discrimination over life, where he's saying that loving someone is a worthwhile reason for taking an enemy's life. Now, he might not agree. He might not believe this entirely because Thorfinn convinces him, Einar, like, do you really want to take someone's life? And he kind of reflects on it. But it was interesting. Like that was something that Einar kind of overcame, I guess, a little bit in this book. So I thought that was interesting, like choosing love over life. Now, it kind of relates to Thor's in a way, where like it's still nebulous in my mind, but like there is that contradiction where Thor's is all about not harming people, but in my opinion, I think the one exception to that is that he will defend his family. Like that's more important to him than his philosophy. But the thing is that it kind of contradicts his philosophy in a way. And he originally came to that philosophy through the love of his family, like through having a child. So it is like I'm at this point, I don't know whether what Einar is going about, which is that love is something is worthwhile to fight for. I don't know if that's something that's being like promoted, like is a good thing or is a bad thing in the narrative. Now I just want to see how it tracks over time, I guess, to see future books what they think about it. But it is something that's in my mind where I'm like, I don't know how to feel about it. But yeah, all to do with Thor's and his ambiguity.
I think there's something to say about the storm and like anger, like sometimes you have this anger and you just need to let it pass. I think the storm with Arnheid in general, and this kind of relates to like Einar's a very passionate individual. And he's almost hot-headed to an extent, like, and so this is why like Thorfinn and Einar balance each other out so well, is because like when Thorfinn needs a bit of passion in his life, Einar's able to interject that, but when Einar's about to go do something rash, Thorfinn's holding him back a little bit to try and get him to think a little bit more about it.
Mm-hmm.
And and the thing is with Arnheid here is like she's someone who like she talks about this storm and you just have to let it pass. But she's also like it's kind of talking about this very passive role that you take. You just have to wait it out. Just gotta wait it out. It will get better. You just gotta wait it out. It'll get better. But Arnheid is a character just in general that does not take very many choices of her own because she is a female slave. Like she doesn't get to choose. Well, she like her choice, like even compared to Einar and Thorfinn, she won't have the choice of freedom later on. And she gets very little agency.
Yeah.
Just in general, and I mean, yeah, and I think lots of people. It's not uncommon. Like you kind of falls into one or two camps. Sometimes you feel sorry for her just because she's kind of like she almost has this damsel in distress, or because she's a woman that's like being very clearly oppressed. You kind of feel that for her, and that's enough for you to get her invested into her character. Or you just don't find her character to be that substantial. She is just really nice, like she's almost too nice. And then you can feel like, well, what am I meant to feel about this character? And in a way, like, it's both, because Arnheid doesn't have much of a personality because she's not allowed to show it. Really,
Yeah.
Because she has to be just this nice person this whole time. Why? Because otherwise, if she's not nice and submissive, well, then she gets into trouble, right? And that's just like how the world has molded her into like a shell of a human. And then she makes one choice. She makes one big choice to go tend Garda's wounds, and it's disastrous. You know, like it's just the worst. And it's just this like sad thing. Like she chooses and she makes a choice, and it's just completely the wrong one. You know, for like, I mean, I don't know if Garda would have been killed otherwise, but like,
yeah,
it
like
makes
her
it just
actions
worse in
sealed his
general,
death
right?
as well.
Yeah. And I mean, like she takes proper adjacencies in this. You know, she tries to woo like one of the soldiers there, and then she goes to Garda. And I mean, she's all under the idea that like, oh, I'll just tend his wounds. He's a maniac now, but like he'll allow me around her. And then she goes talks to him, and Garda's like almost gone in this Thor's journey that he's like halfway through. Like he is not in the right state of mind, but he could be healed. And he's on this like, I hate war. Let's just go have a peaceful life. I'm so sorry I've been the worst husband. And you're just like, oh my word, imagine hearing that from your long lost husband who like abandoned you and, you know, for some stupid ore. Wait, like Garda's gone on that Thor's journey, effectively. And you're just like, what what do you do? And that's why it's the worst decision. And yeah, I mean, there's this weird thing where, you know, like before she leaves, you know, Sverkel points out the irony in her actions, and Sverkel doesn't stop her. And it's one like, it's weird. Like, I was actually really mad at Sverkel in that scene because I'm like, dude, you're the mature, I don't know, you're the wise guy. You know, you're the mentor. You should be saying no. But he also is wise because he's saying, hey, you're an adult. You make your own decisions, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just one of those things where it's like, I like, as you said earlier, like Garda isn't the most compelling character because half the time he's a maniac, and the other like half the time like he doesn't get much time to develop really. And some of the small moments you get, you see a bit of humanity there. But as you say, like I'm sure we'll get onto the Thorfinn stuff later, but that's like more interesting to me, of course. But
yeah, I think with Garda, well, I guess firstly I wrote down something you just said, which is that so would you say that Arnheid is viewing the storm as inevitable, whereas like someone like Garda might see it as something you can overcome? Like he's willing to change, whereas Arnheid thinks he won't change, for instance, something like that. Like because of her position as a female slave, maybe she sees the storm as something inevitable. Is that kind of what you were saying?
Maybe I think it's like it's more, I think, just more to reflect her mentality of being a passive role. Like sometimes she's had to learn the hard way that sometimes you just can't do anything about it, and you just gotta rock with the waves, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You can't fight this massive, you know, this massive part of nature. You just can't fight it. That's just what you got to do. And that's kind of like a reflection of her being a slave and her being just very passive and just being stuck in this world of, you know, of her being a slave. And so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm liking how you're trying to connect all these things with the thoughts, because I haven't really like thought about it in these instant things. And, you know, Aine does get a bit more development next book with regard to this. I like to say. So maybe it'll be something to come back to.
Yep.
I feel like this is a recurring thing, but
oh yeah.
But yeah,
it is that is the thing
within this video.
I was thinking about, just when I was reading, I was like, I have a lot of things where in my notes I'll be like, I want to come back to this later, and I don't have an opinion on it now. I wonder if I took out all that stuff, I wonder how much substance I actually have in these things, you know? Just a small thought. But anyway, so moving on. Okay, we'll move on to Thorfinn now, and his arc, which is just pretty big in this book. So I think that this book does a great job at feeling like a very new chapter for Thorfinn's life, because the events at the end of the last book with not Ragnarok, Valhalla, and him like coming to that realization where he's not going to harm anyone ever again. It really feels like, because there is a big time skip at the beginning of this book, like 3 years or something. And it really does feel like, he's a new person now. Like he's trying to live his life differently. So it's good. Like I think something I complained about last book, which is that Thorfinn's redesign was very drastic, like from book 4 to 5. I feel like the last book though is a great transition between the old Thorfinn and the new Thorfinn that we're seeing now. Like, it feels very transitionary, in a similar way to how there was the Thorfinn's backstory as a kid in Iceland, and then we got that one chapter with John's mother, where Thorfinn's like a little bit older, but is not fully, and then we get the fully transformed Thorfinn. It feels like last book was kind of like that chapter for Thorfinn, in a way.
Oh, okay.
Like, kind of reading this book kind of reframed that the last book as something like that, which I like. But in this book, we get a very clear statement on Thorfinn's mindset, which is he's talking to Einar, and he's like, "What would you say about trying to eliminate warfare and slavery from the world?" And boy, is that an ambitious goal. But it fits in line with his philosophy, I guess, where he also states that, like, it's not enough for him to just stop killing people. He has to kind of atone for the bad things he's done by doing the opposite of destruction, which is creation. Like, he can't obviously fix all the people he's killed or whatever, but he wants to kind of atone for it in a way. So it's not as straightforward as just him vowing to never hurt anyone ever again. There's a bit more to it, which I thought was very interesting.
I love how, like, Thorfinn is like very honest that he was just not a good person. Yeah, when you see on Twitter, Vinland Saga Goated, you'll see it with this panel. This is just one of those ones.
I remember when I was reading this, I was like, I'm sure people like this a lot. It didn't stand out to me, though, I have to say.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I was like, this is very distinct. It's very different.
You're not a big fan of the zombie.
Not really, no. Is this your favorite panel of all time, and I'm insulting you right now?
No. Actually, I like, even in this book, I have a panel that I like more, actually.
Interesting.
You didn't say it earlier though, so
yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, this chapter where he's talking to Einar is very interesting. Like, he talks about making a barrow for the dead.
Yeah,
he's trying to atone. He's just like, and he is like similar to Thor's, where he's like, at this point he can't quite say what he wants to say. Like he's not perfect, like, he's like, one of Thor's like issues is that he just wasn't the best at communicating. There's like this small scene with him and Helga where, like, he's like, is after, like, he grabs Thorfinn's knife initially, and then he's just like,
he's like, look, I
don't think I explained that. Right? Yeah, he's like Helga just, because she knows Thor's, it shows that they've got this understanding of each other as she's bandaging his hand, and he's just like, yes, I understand,
right,
what you mean, but like, Thor's is just always a hard time explaining what he means, and Thorfinn kind of has it here, where he's like, oh, I'm not someone who can really say, like, I'm not really someone that can say, like, you're bad, because I was worse, I don't know. Very humble guy.
Yeah. He's realized his past mistakes and how he can't judge other people for them because he was in that position once. It's very interesting. I like it a lot.
For sure.
So, in regard to Thorfinn's dream about ending warfare and slavery, so I've listed a few of the things he says, which is, he says that war creates slavery. And I think that's pretty straightforward. Like, when you have war, the one side will lose, and because they don't have power anymore, they could become slaves. Like, that makes sense. In another, I guess,
it's a big part of the market system and the profiting system of war. The profit machine of war is making slaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back home.
But I mean, in another like more philosophical thing, it creates a slave, like how it created a slave in Thorfinn, where he was a slave to, because his dad was killed, he himself became a slave to, like, becoming a warrior or whatever. Like, I thought that's another way of taking it, which is interesting. Now, he also says that the barrier between warriors and slaves is weak. So maybe that line maybe ties in a bit with what I just mentioned about, like, how a warrior becomes a slave to these, like
a slave to their primal instincts. Because, like, Askeladd talks about this, where, like, warriors are just beasts going on their prime emotions. I mean, like, talk about Askeladd in chapter 2. Everybody's a slave to something.
Sure, that makes sense. So, yeah. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm salvaging your point.
Yes, thank God. Okay. The next is that he can't just stop fighting. He has to atone for his death with life and destruction. So we talked about that. He talks about... okay, this is interesting. He wants to build a small village where no one needs swords. So, yeah, that's interesting. But we'll talk about that a bit later. I'll go through these last two, which is that he says that fighting is never necessary. It's meaningless to wage war for peace. That's also something that's very interesting.
Does that get you to think about anybody? Huh? You know?
Meaningless to wage war for peace. Kind of reminds me of Thor's, you know? It kind of reminds me of Thorfinn, you know, at this point.
Mm? There's another character I'm thinking more of.
Kind of reminds me of honestly, no.
This book already.
Oh, I guess Garda, right? Wait, is that...
No, Canute.
No, Canute? Wait a minute. It's meaningless to wage war for peace? Is that...
Well, Canute's trying to create a paradise, right? And he's
Yeah, but
waging war
Oh, okay. I thought
to
you
create
meant...
his own paradise to like the
No,
greater
okay.
good, you know?
I see what you... I thought you meant like someone who agrees with this, but yeah, I guess he is.
Oh yeah,
he's
who's
proving the opposite
embodiment
of it.
this? Sorry, my bad. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
okay,
Sorry, my bad. Miscommunication, classic.
Okay.
But,
Yep, Canute crazy, Canute doing bad stuff. But that whole idea of it being meaningless to wage war for peace, it might be the first, like, kind of, I don't know if it's a theme, but the first thing that has made me kind of reflect on the real world, you know? Like, because at the moment, all the themes we've talked about how, like, violence is bad and everything, I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand that. Love is good, but love is bad at the same time. Yeah, I get it. But this one about, like, how it's meaningless to wage war for peace is really interesting, just because, like, obviously in the world, countries have armies, and the point of most armies, at least, is to just protect your own country, right? And if you didn't have an army, then you'd kind of be you're in a bit of a scary situation. So it made me think about it. Like, it's something I'd assumed, the fact that you need an army, like, it's just a part of a country. It's just something I'd never really considered, that you might not need it. Like, if the whole world was just one big country, then you wouldn't need any armies, I guess. I don't know. It's something where I'm like, oh, this book is actually, like, making me think about the real world, and, like,
it's really complex because it's
it's
something
not that
that's still
simple.
being discussed, because Thorfinn talked about, you know, making a village without swords, and you're just like, well, as you said, like, it's a mutually assured destruction is the greatest way to ensure peace in some regards, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, everybody having nukes makes sure that no one wants to use the nukes, you know? And there's, like, a mentality to that, but Thorfinn's, like, saying, like, almost here saying that, you know, like, no, like, my little village won't have nukes at all, like, you know?
Yeah. Which is, to me, seems like crazy, but I don't think it is. Like, I think, like, it's really interesting. Like, I want to see if
it's radical. That's for sure.
It's radical, and I like it. Like in just kind of thinking about something new where I'd never thought of before.
Yeah, but Thor's is like, this is building on Thor's, like, a true warrior needs no sword. You know, so it is still building upon the. I
think it's more the grand scale of the statement, where it's like talking about war rather than, like, at the individual level, you know?
I think, well, that's the thing, is, like, Thor's is, so this is, like, how I think Thorfinn generally is trying to build upon Thor's ideology. Thor's kind of starts off with an individual.
Yeah.
The true warrior needs no sword. And Thorfinn's, like, saying, well, what happens if we make it a village? And as we progress further on the story, you'll see this kind of expand.
Yeah.
Like even in this book, you'll see Thorfinn challenged on the individual level.
Yeah.
Like, can he do it without a sword? Yeah, that's for sure. That kind of becomes, like, as you go on, Thorfinn is continually challenged individually.
Yeah.
On, can he fight without a sword? Can he be a true warrior? Yeah. It's
so
very interesting.
Okay, talking a bit about, like, Thorfinn and the idea of creating a village, or, like, he kind of connects it to Vinland. Like, oh, if there was, like, a Vinland I could go to and create, like, a little place. I think it's interesting. Like, I think that's a worth, like, at least in his world, like, it would work in our world where we've mapped the whole world or whatever, but, like, in his current timeline, if you were to sail so far away to somewhere that no one could get to, like, that is a viable way of actually living out this life. Like, it's kind of like a larger, like, I guess we just talked about this, where it's like taking Thor's thing a little further, which is that, like, Thor's went to Iceland, which is, like, pretty far away from other stuff, but it's not, like, impossibly far away to get to.
But Floki could still get to him.
Yeah, so if you were to go somewhere very far away, at least for a time, you would have, like, probably longer time than Thor's had, then you would have, like, peace for a time, and it's interesting. Like that is like when I heard Thorfinn's grand thing about like a world without slavery, or not slavery, sorry, a world without wait, actually, was slavery in it? Essentially a war without warfare or whatever, and slavery, I think.
Yeah, warfare, a world with peace.
Yeah, world of peace, basically. I was like, oh, there's no way he can do it without amassing power, right? Like someone like Canute might be able to do that, but if you don't have power, then you're not going to be able to do that. But one way to do it is to go far away and create your own society and slowly build up like a mindset in people, and then maybe you could kind of change people's minds.
Yeah, to go somewhere not here.
Yeah, to go to a Vinland, you know. Yeah, I like it a lot. Like it's something I hadn't considered this, like the story to go towards that direction, you know. But it is like I think that's a viable like end game kind of thing where it's like that could be how Thorfinn eventually does achieve this goal. So it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, what else have I? Oh, at the end of this little section where Thorfinn talks about this idea of going somewhere far away, he thinks of Hordaland, the conversation they had back in chapter 2, which I think is just cool. Because I always like that did feel like an important conversation back then, where he's talking about, oh, you're just choosing to be a slave and everything. And then he, like at this point now, he probably realizes that slavery is not a choice, and it's like such a cool time to bring this back into the story. He himself is the slave, and it was and he was always been that way, and it's cool. Hordaland, good. We're bringing her back.
Nice.
Okay, so something else that happens with Thorfinn in this little section of the story is that when Einar finds out who Gardar is, which is Arnheid's husband, Einar essentially is very passionate, and he wants to essentially kill Snake or something to kind of save him, and Thorfinn kind of calms him down, and that's like his whole purpose. And we did talk about this a little bit before, but the thing that I found interesting here is that he's facing kind of the version that he used to be, like a version of himself, where he was, as a kid, he was very passionate about wanting to get back at Aslud and like kill Aslud and everything, and now Einar is kind of passionate, not passionate about killing someone in particular, but passionate about doing violence in a way to get his end, like his thing he thinks or people deserve in the end, like with Arnheid. I don't know, it's just another small kind of thing going on with Thorfinn, like a callback to his past. Okay, the next thing is that Thorfinn, well, I guess during Arnheid, we get Arnheid's backstory as well, which is pretty straightforward. You've got like the men go to war when they don't need to, and then the women and the children suffer because of it, go into slavery. Now, during this backstory, Arnheid says, if Gardar hadn't gone off to take part in that battle, if he'd just weathered the storm, but instead our suffering never ended. And we see a panel of like a sweating and like kind of panicked like Thorfinn or something, where he's like reflecting. And I think that, I mean, it could be anything. It could just be him like kind of dreading the situation that Arnheid is in and everything. But I think it's him kind of thinking of his own life, and like what he's, maybe the first time he's thought back to his family, and like how he doesn't know what kind of situation they're in. Are they happy? Are they alive? Like maybe they're in the same situation that Arnheid is in now, like because he left them. And it's a cool moment of introspection, at least to me. Like I don't know if that's what's being intended, but that's the way I took it.
I think you could take it that way, and also the fact that Thorfinn used to be the cause of this as well.
That's very true.
There's immense amount of shame and guilt on his end as well. That like he's the reason why they had to weather the storm.
Yeah, that's funny. It works. It works on him on both levels. Yeah, that's really interesting.
For sure.
Okay, cool. So now the last bit in this little, it's a big section about Gardar and everything, is the Snake and Thorfinn fight. So this is Thorfinn's first challenge, obviously, to his philosophy, where he's faced with a situation where it seems that he has to fight. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in this fight is that it makes a very clear parallel to what's going on with Canute in this book, where Thorfinn is choosing to fight Snake for the sake of Arnheid, right, and Gardar. And if he was to do that, he's subscribing to the same thing as Canute, in that he's doing something that he believes is bad, but for the greater good. right? So he's choosing to commit violence against Snake, but for the greater good that is saving Arnite and Garda, right? So that's a very interesting kind of twist, which eventually he like it's a challenge because he doesn't actually he does do that fighting, but he doesn't try to hurt Snake, like, which is why he's not using a weapon essentially. So it makes me think about how, like, I'm kind of merging 2 points here, but it makes me think about how maybe the problem isn't the action of violence, but rather the intent behind the violence. Like maybe maybe what he will learn from this fight he had, because we haven't seen him reflect on it yet or anything, but maybe what he'll learn is that violence is fine as long as you're not intending to to do harm on someone through the violence, which seems reasonable. But it wasn't something I was expecting, so I thought that was interesting.
I mean, I love it when Askeladd turns up again, and he's the same thing as Sven, where he's just like, I want to read this quote real quick, but he's like, back to fighting again, Thorfinn? Because, like at the end of the last book, Thorfinn said, yeah, I would never use violence against anybody ever again. So Thorfinn's having to go back to his commitment, going against his commitment. And then Askeladd's like, they have a practical, like, he's the same as Sven. You've got Ragnar and Thors, which are similar.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sven and Knut, and like they're both kind of goading them in their minds. It's like, back to fighting again, Thorfinn? Well, I guess you didn't have a choice in this situation. You don't have a choice in this situation, do you? Like, he's giving him the easy way out. It's almost like the devil in his ear, like tempting him.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no lust or hatred behind the fight. It's purely altruism. See, now you have proper justification to swing those fists. And you know this is not what Thorfinn wants to do. But then Askeladd also, he's like, but then again, I suppose he's got just as good a reason to fight as well, So what are you going to do now, Thorfinn? Will you hold your oath of peace or surrender to the ways of battle and to save this man? Which of the path is to be a true warrior? No time to think. You've got to choose now, And it's just like, yeah. And of course, it's not sending through again. But this panel here, it's like you talked about a panel when Thorfinn's when Askeladd speaks into Thorfinn's ear
in the Thorkel fight.
Yeah, so this is like almost like a weird parallel there, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, like, once again, you got some cool flowy fights. I'm loving it. And then I'm gonna actually get my favorite panel, which is this one in this book. I think this is like, I don't know why it just clocked out to me, but this expression on Thorfinn's face is like Thor's and Askeladd mixed together perfectly.
I like the sweat, like that one bead. It makes me think of Thor's.
yeah, it's like a very Thor's expression, but like the goatee. There's something about it makes it feel very Askeladd.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably more Thor's, where like Thor's is like he's trying to figure out what he's doing. Like, because Thorfinn doesn't know. Like, he just doesn't know. Interestingly, like, this time he doesn't go into a massive sense of like Valhalla again. I guess because last time he just punched one dude, and this time, like, I guess he's fighting him completely. But yeah, I mean, this fight is I love it so much. I don't know. I'm looking forward to be animated, but like it's drawn so well and it's like so hype because it's capitalizing on the foreshadowing that was in all the way at the beginning when Snake first swipes at Thorfinn, and you're just like, oh, I wanted to see these guys go toe to toe, and then they have this cool scene where you're like, oh man, he's tough. Like, and they're like, Nani? I don't know.
They have this conversation, like this exchange, where Thorfinn is like, oh, how did this crazy guy get on this like outback farm or whatever? And then Snake is like, oh, how did this guy become a slave, this great warrior? And it's, I don't know, it's a cool conversation. Well, cool thoughts, I guess, exchanging of thoughts.
Yeah, it's something that I'd probably hate if I saw in the anime first, because like I don't like internal monologues in anime.
Yeah.
But like in manga it works well. And then you got this big like if you're cheering on Thorfinn here, then you got this big thing from Snake where he's like, yes, my men are idiots, scum, common villains all. They're all cast outs who have aliases to cover up their failures elsewhere. But are you saying that I shouldn't care if they die? Are you? It's a sense like this farm is almost a refuge for those who used to be warriors and messed up. You know,
Wow.
it's similar to Thorfinn.
Yeah, I like
you know,
that.
Like, and it's like you finally get a bit of like deeper characterization to Snake and like what he does. Like Snake does actually really care about his men. He's going through a lot of effort, because he identifies with them, and he doesn't think they're necessarily good people, but he's saying it's like still their lives are worth value. I don't
Yeah.
know, and it's almost, I think it's calling out the reader at this point, because I think it's expecting you to be cheering on Thorfinn. You know, you want Arnheid and Garda to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But why should you want Garda to be happy when Lizard just died? I know you only met Lizard for one panel, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't care about him. You know, this is one of those like, one of those many times when authors like looks like you're like, oh man, I'm being judged for like reading it this way, but you tricked me into reading it this way. But like, it's one of those cool things. Like when you emotionally fall into that trap and then you get called out for it, I really love it when a piece of media can do that to me.
Yeah.
So.
I love that too. Like when it makes you, I don't know, question what you're thinking. I like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, Snake and Thorfinn. That's all I've got for this section of well, I guess so. We were just talking about Thorfinn kind of, and now Snake a bit. The only remaining part I've got for Garda is about him and Arnheid during this kind of arc. So honestly, now I'm looking through his points, I think we've covered them all. So we talked about how we talked about Arnheid a bit, and her situation. We talked about Garda regretting having chosen violence over like loving his family. And I think I also mentioned about like how it's a bit confusing. I don't know if it was talking about Garda particularly, but just the idea of like Garda is doing the Thor's thing of, at least in my opinion, of like choosing to not do violence, but then choosing your family, like prioritizing your love or discrimination. And then I'm like, I don't know if what that makes sense. Well, we'll see how that goes. And then the last thing is just I pointed out his last line. Well, yeah, I think his last line in this book, which is really great, where he says, once he grows old enough, a boy is bound to start saying he wants to go a Viking, but I won't let him. Arnheid, Hjalti, I swear I won't leave your side ever again. Great line. Great way to end the book.
Yeah, it's just tragic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's weird. You first see Garda. It's like he's almost like Thorgil in a way where you see him initially like, oh my word, this guy's just doomed. Like,
yeah,
but then
he's
you
got the harsh
get
lighting.
more context. Yeah, he's got the harsh lighting. He looks like a warrior. He looks like a typical Viking, but he's got a lot of character. And then just ends the chapter dead in Arneid's arms. And yeah, it's just kind of. I love like how they're going to ride their thing together. You know, they're just.
Yeah,
it's just such a.
And she knows he's gonna die, and
yeah, dude, it's gonna hurt so much when
it's like a.
It's gonna have that music.
Yeah, I was actually for a second I was like, oh, it's kind of like Cowboy Bebop in a way, but it's nothing like Have you seen Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I was thinking of the first episode.
The live action, right?
Yeah, I mean it works either way. The first episode of live action where you got that the woman in the red eye guy.
True.
But it's kind of not at all because that guy doesn't learn his lesson or anything. But yeah, anyway, hey, that live action. Yeah, let me just say, I love that live action. Right? It's I loved it. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
My hot take is that I might even like it more than the original. But we'll get to that eventually one day. I'll make a video about it.
What really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Okay. Anyway, okay.
Dude, I need to watch the rest of it, man. I mean, I watched it and it like I really appreciate it. Okay, we're going Cowboy Bebop.
All right.
Thing. I didn't hate it because like everybody just jumps on this thing and they just start hating it. I'm just like,
yeah.
Look, guys, you got the original. That's okay.
Yeah.
You know? Let them try something different. Let's see how they do it. It may not be as good, but it's just interesting to think about. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, this, and of course, not everybody's that dislikes it. Like, lots of people will be like, well, this is what everybody thinks of Cowboy Bebop when they talk about Cowboy Bebop now and all this stuff. And I'm just like, whatever, you know? Does everybody think of Vinland Saga, but the anime, and not the manga? And I'm like, yeah, and I don't care. That's fine. You know? Like, I've got enough people that know about the manga and all this stuff, and sure, even the anime is really bad. It's okay. It's like I don't need to be validated by live action or anime,
Yeah.
But it is just really cool to see how they went to try and go about it. And I thought, it wasn't a clear cash grab. I mean, like, as far as live adaptations go, I thought they tried really hard to fit in a style that fits with live action, and it worked in some places and didn't work in others. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it didn't hit home for me, but like I could, sit back and respect like what they were trying to do with that without just blindly hating on it, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm very like I'm a big minority where I liked it a lot. Like, and not because of it's like some objective standard of quality, or it's like, oh, it's because clearly by most people's standards it's not like quote unquote good, but I just enjoyed watching it so much. And then when I got to the end, I just had this feeling where I'm like, I just want to see more. And to me, that's just a sign of me enjoying something a lot. And it's something I didn't have that much in the original. Like when I finished it, I was like, okay, that's good. And I felt sad we'd never see the characters again. But like, I don't know. I don't think I really wanted more. But I do want more of this, this live action stuff. I don't know. I've got complicated thoughts. Like one day I will make a video about it, but at this, I don't know. I'd have to think about it more.
And it is a hot take, and I always like an interesting hot take.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, and not necessarily just for being contrarian as well. Like if you actually genuinely like,
a
good thing.
Love it.
Anyway, we should talk about
okay.
Vinland Saga.
So. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in this last section? Because the other things I've got now are miscellaneous notes and predictions.
Let's just do let's do that.
Okay, so
what we're on like an hour and 20 minutes, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're doing pretty good.
We've talked about a bit. So miscellaneous notes. So sleeping on hay. It seems nice. Like when Einar and Thorfinn do it, and I've never done it, but I'd like to try it one day. Have you ever slept on hay before?
Oh, have I slept on? I haven't slept on it, but I've definitely laid on hay a lot of times.
Is it comfortable?
It's pretty itchy.
That's
not really
a
as
great
soft
point.
as it looks here.
Yeah, hey, just cover yourself in like a cloth or something.
But hey, as far as bedding goes for slaves, that's pretty top-notch stuff. That may as well be a 5-star hotel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't complain.
They just look comfy every time they're there. Like, oh man, I want to try it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yuki Mura's art is too soft.
That is true. All the background art,
Yeah.
The next point is Thorgil is one of Knut's higher ups. So I think this is what you were getting at last time, like in the discussion where you were like, "Oh, do you know who Thorkel is?" And I was like, "I think I do," but it wasn't revealed until this point, where I'm like, "Okay, now I see what Bacon was getting at. He's one of Knut's like thanes or whatever. Like he's a very high up person."
I think he may as well be like Yorm's Viking level.
Yeah.
Or even higher, like in terms of warrior skill.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird things, like in the anime, like because I've just been reading all the detailed notes he left of the anime. They like just flat out state like he is part of Knut's thing, and I was like, how is that revealed early on? I don't remember. Like so, yeah, that's why I was being like,
yeah.
It's not that much of a spoiler, but
no, it was great. So next miscellaneous note, Knut says a king is a sword. What king in this world can rule without power? And then that's like the only reason I point this out is it's the literal opposite of Thor's a true warrior needs no sword. Just a cute little thing.
Yeah.
Now I also liked when Kettle meets Leif and they're talking about the Thorfinn that's on Kettle's farm. He calls him a quiet but steadfast laborer. I just thought that was really cute. He likes Thorfinn. He thinks he's just a good worker. So I like that a lot.
Also characterizes Kettle's relationship with his slaves.
Oh man, I didn't write about this, but the fact that Kettle, like before he leaves, he's like, you don't worry about waiting until it's fully grown. Once you've planted all your stuff, you're free. Like it's such a like nice little gesture, you know. Man, Kettle's such a nice guy, such a great slave owner, you know.
Based. I wish all slave owners were like Kettle.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd live in a better world, you know. Okay, anyway. So
yeah, it's one of those things like you talk about, oh, Kettle's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, but the thing, it's only like with slavery. Like you can be like, oh, dude, Askeladd is so cool. I love him. Oh, I love that time where he just slaughtered a bunch of innocent villagers. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like you could get away talking about Askeladd like that, but Kettle, not so much. Like it's one of those weird things.
Yep. All right. So right before Garda arrives to like in front of Arnheid, like before the revelation is made that it's her husband and everything, we got this panel where Arnheid is washing some clothing, and she cuts her finger and then like sucks on it or whatever. It is weird, but I just don't understand it. It's such a weird, like a lot of emphasis was placed on it. It's basically a whole page. And I don't know like what is going on here. Is it just like a bad omen or something? Because it's like before we even learned about who Garda was or anything. Yeah, what a weird thing. I don't know, unless it'll come in, like she'll die of that infection eventually or something. I don't know. But
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it is quite throwaway. It's interesting you pointed out about it. So hands to Yukimura. I can't find my tweet this quickly. I made a tweet that popped off on Twitter a while ago.
Ooh.
Let me just say Yukimura hands. Can I do that? Can I just
Surely.
can I get a result for
Modern
that?
technology.
Hands. Yeah. So here's a quote from Yukimura. This is like in a later book, so like he actually interviewed about it. When I look at the work of other manga artists, sometimes the faces are well drawn, but the hands are not. To put it bluntly, if I were to choose among artists, I would choose them by how they draw their hands. Hands are the most facial expressive part of a character after the face. You can fake facial expressions, but your hands will show you how hard you work. If you show a character's life in their hands, you'll get good results. So it's like,
I like that. Yeah.
it's a very, I mean, it's one of those big memes in like any artistic community that hands are hard as nails to draw. Like they are just something about fingers, you can never get them to look right. And Yukimura is just outstanding at doing them. And he is just trying to characterize his characters through hands. And I love his little point, like how you can fake facial expressions, but you can't fake your hands. Your hands will show you how hard you work. So like you'll see a lot of fists of Thorfinn in this, and you can see like his hands are all gnarled up. And then some other fists, like you'll see of other characters, they're not as gnarled up, and like the slave life or how it, like almost their experience as well of life as well as shown in their hands. It is one of those interesting things.
No, that's great. Yeah.
But like, so for example, here's one example. But if you compare Sverkel's hands to I think there's better hands of Kettle, but like you compare them both, like it's almost like this. That's like the closest thing that you can see that's bad about Kettle as well. Like I mean, Kettle's not like he's a good guy, but he's not perfect, of course.
Yeah.
But like he's like he may not work as hard as Sverkel does and all that stuff. So
Yep.
yeah. I like actually in this shot, I like Einar's goofy face in the background of that funny guy.
Yep. And Kettle's angry vein thing and top of his
Oh
head.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Classic.
Okay. The last two miscellaneous notes I've got are both about some notes that Yukimura makes at the end of the books or volumes maybe.
Okay.
So the first one is that he makes an interesting point about slaves. So he says that he's talking essentially about Viking or about history, like this point in history, he's just like reflecting on it. And he says that those who were too weak to protect their own freedom were at fault for their plight. So he's talking about how like if you were too weak to protect your freedom, you'd become a slave and it's your fault. Now I don't know, it's cool little observation, like I can see how he's like weaving that into the story a bit. But yeah, cool. The other point he makes is in the interview he has like at the end of the book, I think, where he says that essentially the interviewer asks him, so why did you write a story about violence or whatever, about how violence is bad, blah blah blah. He says but what would happen to a hero manga if the protagonist really wished he could escape from his fate of violence? Could you still tell a story without it losing its entertainment value? I decided that I wanted to try that out. And that's such a cool, like, motivating force behind Vinland Saga. Because it is such a challenge where, like, we are constantly wanting Thorfinn to fight and that will keep us engaged. But at the same time, like, he's not going to fight. And either way, it's still engaging. Like, it's a great story. So I like that being, like, one of his reasons for making Vinland Saga. Cool little Yukimura thing,
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
That's a classic Yukimura quote. Yeah, I love it. It's like, yeah.
Yep, good stuff. Good. Yukimura smart. Yukimura interesting.
Yukimura, no, he's
good artist, except for females, right?
It's hard to dislike this guy. He is so like, you see him on Twitter and stuff, and like, he's just he's. It's like that meme of like like Miyazaki compared to what's that Satoshi Kon or whatever. It's like Satoshi Kon was always happy, and Miyazaki was always like grumpy and angry. But like they produced like Miyazaki produces all the happy works, and you know, like kind of thing. And especially
Mm.
produces the disturbing works. It's kind of like that with Yukimura. It's like he's such a happy guy. How can he make such a grim manga sometimes? You know, like
Yep.
so.
Maybe he's secretly he loves violence.
Hiding something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's like, I love violence.
Yes. All right. That's it. Predictions. Are you ready?
Yes.
So my takeaway from the predictions is that I don't know, basically. But firstly, it really does feel like they're setting up a battle at Kettle's farm. Because like Canute's like 103 men or whatever are all going there. And Leaf and Kettle and Thorgil and everyone, they're heading back, and it really feels like they're going to set it up. But I don't know how that's going to happen, because the farm is like grossly outmatched. Like you got Thorfinn, essentially. Thorfinn's great, but he doesn't want to fight. You've got Kettle. He's a coward. Like he just wants to run away. Canute's obviously not going to back down. Like Canute really wants this land. And he's got his like 100 men or whatever, 100 of the best men, the Yoms Vikings, the Foki's men. Like, so I don't know what's going to happen, because it's going to go terribly. But the three like ways I can see this going are that you got the first option, which is that somehow the fight is entirely avoided, where like maybe Kettle and like Thorgil and everyone they'll head back to the farm. So I think that's definitely gonna happen. But maybe before Canute arrives, they will like smuggle everyone away, like on a bunch of ships. Like I don't know how many ships Kettle has. Maybe that will be, but then where will they go? Like they can't go to England. They can't go to they can't stay where they are, like on their current country. Maybe they can go to Greenland, is what I was thinking, because that's where like Leaf is from. But then that's gonna put a target on Greenland and Iceland and everything. I don't know. So I don't think that's gonna happen. Like I think the fight will happen. Now, the two other things I've got is that option B, which is that the farm will be destroyed, and then by the end, Thorfinn and Einar are forced to flee, because I think they're both going to survive. Like I think obviously Thorfinn's going to survive, is the main character, and then Einar, I feel like Einar's going to survive just because he's Thorfinn's only friend. So I feel like those two will somehow escape. Like they'll get to a ship and head somewhere.
Interesting, because you're predicting they would die last book, I think.
Who, Einar? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things have changed. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Now, option C.
You're allowed to change your opinion.
Yes,
that's absolutely fine.
There is one thing I haven't changed, which I'll talk about. But so option C is that the fight is going badly, but then some other force comes in to save the day, like some other country or like some army. I don't know who could possibly come in, but I think that's the only other option.
1v300s, all of them.
No. Well, I guess that is possible. I like, for instance, if I don't even know. Like I was thinking if like Sweden or something comes and brings their army. Like I don't know how. I don't know. Essentially, that's the only other thing I would think of.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they should have kept Garda around. He would have been helpful.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you should have kept Thor's around. You gotta wipe them out.
This is all foreshadowed by like Snake, where he's yeah, I don't have enough men to protect this island,
Like it's just they're grossly outmatched. It's gonna go terribly. But so if the battle does happen, which I'm pretty sure it will, so I got a few things, which is that I think Thorgil is going to die saving Olmar. I don't know why. Like I feel like I can just imagine those two having a moment, just because in this book they had that moment where Thorgil was giving Olmar a lesson, kind of, but it's kind of the wrong lesson in a way, maybe. And maybe on his dying breath, he will give Olmar a second lesson, and that will like a good lesson maybe this time, and motivate Olmar to be a better person. Because I feel like Olmar is being set up as someone who's incompetent, and maybe he will grow to become more competent in a way. So I can see that happening, like Thorgil dying for the sake of Olmar, maybe, and giving him some motivation. The other thing is that I've made previously a prediction that the next battle that Thorkel is in, he will die. So if Thorkel is in this battle, I think Thorkel will die. I'm still sticking with that. I don't know if he will be. Okay. Like it seems like he alone could wipe out the farm. Like you don't need all the army if Thorkel's there. But like if he does show up, I feel like he will die somehow. I'm sticking with that prediction.
He'll have his rematch with Thorfinn.
But it would be interesting. I don't know. It's gonna be weird if he does show up. The other thing is that I can't see Canute dying. Purely because he has no successors whatsoever, and they would put both England and is it Denmark? Is that the other places? king
In
of.
jeopardy.
Yeah. It would just
Yeah.
put them like in chaos, basically. Yeah. So I can't see him dying. So yeah, so, I don't know. The other prediction, I guess, is that I think that by the end of this battle, like when this arc is done, I can imagine Thorfinn going back with Leif to his family. Like I could see that being the next thing. Based on that setup I was talking about before, about how maybe he was like Arnheid's story made him think about his family a bit. So I could definitely see him going there next. So that's my predictions about the battle. And the predictions that I want to end this video on. Now, the other thing is that I have, if you don't know anything in the future, this is gonna be some spoiler stuff. So if you don't know anything about future arcs or whatever, I'm gonna cut it off here and bye, and thank you for listening. So the rest of this prediction that's coming up will be like based on some future knowledge I have.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Interesting.
So are you ready?
I'm ready.
So I don't want you to say anything because it's like I'm not that confident, but
Thorfinn turns into a bird.
no, I know. Obviously that's gonna happen. I know that one. But
yeah.
so I'm pretty sure that the story is eventually going to go to Vinland. Like I don't know if that will be Thorfinn going there or someone's going to go there. And the only reason I think that is that I know you have a video where you're like pronouncing names of characters. And I feel like I'm not certain if that's like the people, like the native people in Vinland or whatever, but I feel like that could be the case. Like I'm pretty sure that's what that would be. So don't have to tell me if it is or not, but I know you have a video about that.
Okay.
So I would assume that somehow the story
so the title
goes there.
isn't hinting at anything for you. The title of the series.
No. Well, I mean, my initial thought would be that you could have Vinland be this abstract thing that is never reached. But now I do feel like it will eventually go there, based on that. So that's just my pretext of like what I know. Now the actual like prediction is that I think, like I'm pretty sure now, like not pretty sure, but like the fact that Thorfinn was talking about building a society in like a small little village, maybe he can do that in Vinland itself, right? Like that is an actual, like he does think of it in this volume. Like I can see him going there. Like I do think that the story does go there. So I feel like that could be a thing that happens. So that's a prediction based on like some knowledge I have, I think. Now, what I think would be really interesting if that does happen is like his goal is to like build a small village or whatever with his philosophy. But there are people in Vinland and they're going to have their own like culture and stuff and their like societies. And I think it would be really interesting to see how those two, like how Thorfinn's kind of thing and how that existing society, how they interact and like what he learns from them. And so if he does go there, I think that would be really interesting. But yeah, that's my last prediction based on something that I'm assuming happens. But yeah, for all I know, it could just be that we start like a new perspective following people at Vinland and Thorfinn never does go there or anything. But I think it would be interesting if he did. But yeah, there we go. That's my final spoiler prediction.
But we also have this Baltic War thingy going on.
Oh
right?
yeah, I guess that is true. So as far as I know, I'm not confident, but I'm pretty sure the next arc is like the Baltic Sea War arc, right? Well, I guess don't confirm, but I mean, I think we talked about that. Now I don't know what that means. Like, we could have another like 20-year time skip for all I know. Like, I have no idea. So if it isn't a time skip, then I don't know. Like, I feel like Sigvaldi will somehow come in because he was like the person of the Baltic Sea or whatever, the champion of it, or something. Now I don't know how that's gonna. Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know about the next arc. Like even just knowing the name, like I'm assuming that implies that there's going to be some war, obviously. But I don't know who's going to be at war. Like I don't know. I feel like Canute is going to survive this battle, so I'm assuming one side will be Canute. I don't know who the other side could be. Man, who else is there? Because it can't be Greenland and Iceland because they're very small. It can't be England. I mean, it could be like a civil war within England or something, but that's not in the sea, so I don't know why it would be called the Baltic Sea War. What other countries are there? It can't be America because there's like not an America yet. Who else is there? I guess it could be like Asia,
France,
like some country. I was thinking of Asia. It could be like a completely different foreign thing. But you're right, it could also be someone in Europe, but like they haven't really set up anything in Europe, so I don't know. Could Could be Australia.
We'll have to
No,
see.
maybe it's Australia. There we go. The
Yeah,
indigenous
maybe
Australians will come and I don't know.
Yeah, the Aboriginals will come over and
Yeah,
start playing
interesting.
rugby better than them or something.
Maybe,
like that.
maybe. But good times ahead. I am going to be reading the next chapter today because I am very I'm on the edge of my seat. It ended off in a good point, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I actually may read the next book because
Yeah.
I like the next book a lot.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that was good. I think that was a good episode. I mean, how are the views doing? I mean, I know I'm still recording, but I like to know. I like to keep updated on the.
Well, I know
views and
the the end of the prologue one. That's just like the best one ever. Apparently, it just got so many views.
Oh.
The one afterwards, I think that also did pretty good. Like, I feel like it's just they're not dropping off as much as I thought.
Yeah,
Which is great.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you for continuously watching.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you like it. Leave a comment if you want, and I'll thumbs it up or something, or like it. I don't know. Yeah. Thanks for listening. We had a good time. See you.
Yeah.